So, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm not going to welcome you yet because that is not my job. But what I am going to do is tell you who I am. When I woke up this morning, more than ever today, my name was still Nhlamulo Decent Baloyi, so nothing has changed on that front. So that is me, and I'll be taking you through the program today. I saw there's quite a lot of programs outside, so that means that Some of you probably did not pick a program outside or take one. So you'll just have to follow or believe what we're saying here. Without wasting any time, colleagues, I'm going to ask the Acting Executive Dean, Dr. Masichawa, to please come and give us some welcome remarks.
Good morning, colleagues. In my early youth days, when a huge noise wanted to convince me that I was wrong for loving women instead of loving men, I met a very soft, beautiful Zulu man. And he handed me a bracelet like this one. And when I asked what it meant, he said, I wanted to marry you. But I demanded a ring like this one. But instead of diamonds, I wanted a pearl. And that is because I'm born of water. And that engagement did not last because I defined myself as an African. And I understood that I was born this way, I am that way, and I am an African. And I had to do what I had to do. And it is amazing that we are celebrating Africa Day this week. Our Vice Chancellor and Principal, no, it's the other way around. Our Principal and Vice Chancellor, Professor Lenkabula, has been trotting the globe during this week. She was in South Africa, she went to Tanzania, yesterday she was in France, and tomorrow she'll be in Bristol, UK, because we are celebrating Africa. And we have our team, Professor Namo G and Professor Namo S, in Tanzania, and I think today they are leaving to America. And we are just talking about Africa and the oceans that we have, the blue economy that we must explore. We are rich, we have 2 big oceans, and we need to extract our wealth out of that water. Welcome to Africa Week. Welcome to this engagement. And when we talk about the Africa we want, we need to define it. As a university, we are the global African university. But in all the external universities, we have something called African studies, African studies. But why is it that those books that are not written by us? So let's explore that, not in this space, but when we go back to our places, and let us write books for ourselves. We had our tuition meeting yesterday, the day before yesterday, and I was impressed to see the authors of the books that we read, that they are written by you. And I'm challenging the mathematicians, the finance people, Professor Bindi. Let's write those books so that our students can learn from what we wrote. Welcome to the University of South Africa, and I know that the team led by Dr. Mako has arranged an African full research day for us. Welcome, colleagues.
Thank you, Madam Dean, for officially welcoming us to the CAMS Research and Innovation Day. I can confirm that the office of Dr. Mako has prepared an interactive program and which you will witness as we go through the next couple of hours. Colleagues, we have been welcomed officially, so in military language, at ease. You are right, Madam Dean, that it's becoming a contemporary lingo for this thing of the Africa we want. I attended a conference 2 days ago and someone spoke about the African states, but I did challenge him in terms of what does it mean when you talk about the African state? What is the definition of an African state? And we will get there with those books that you spoke about, Dr. Maschow. We're going to go on with our program, colleagues, and at this point, oh, that's me, okay. At this point, colleagues, I'd like to call the head of our CAMS Office of Graduate and Research. That is Dr. Ntabeleng Mago. Doc.
Dumelang, le kae? Ke gona. Esteemed college management colleagues, our keynote speaker, guests, researchers, Babotle, Dumelang, ke Nthabeleng ka lebitso, acting head of the Office of Graduate Studies. As we have been welcomed by our Madam Dean, I wish to echo her sentiments that feel free, we are all at home, Gerai. UNISA's Research and Innovation Week embraces the theme Proudly African, Globally Relevant, highlighting the university's commitment to showcasing African excellence while addressing our global developmental problems. UNISA is led by what I call a lived vision of being the African university shaping futures in the service of humanity. And our guests, for you to know, this vision guides our planning, our actions, and aims to serve the African continent and the broader global community by addressing developmental goals and challenges, and fostering partnerships to help people achieve their dreams. At SEMS, our research is innovative, engaging, and practical. And engagements like today's are important because for us, they create a bridge and a pathway for us to connect to our society, you as our industry partners, and our students. Here's why today's theme is very important, and I hope this importance resonates with you. It reaffirms our African identity. It positions Africa as a continent capable of addressing its own challenges while contributing solutions to its global issues. It promotes collaboration. The exchange of ideas is important if we are to advance as a continent, university, industry, and with our partners. It reshapes our perceptions. From our speakers today, you will see that Africa is rightly positioned, as our Madam Dean has said, with our two oceans, to make a meaningful contribution in society. And it empowers future generations. Our college has a growing number of emerging researchers, and I hope today they are reaffirmed that they have a pool of proven established researchers they can rally and link to. I hope that this theme inspires not only our scholars, but the entrepreneurs and innovators we have today to take pride in their heritage while striving for international excellence. Today, I hope will be more than a talk shop. I hope there will be a meaningful exchange of ideas, constructive solutions to our problems, and I hope we will foster sustainable partnerships and embrace the various and differing perspectives. I wish to thank our speakers, who could be anywhere in the world, but they chose to be here with us today. And I also wish to thank my colleagues. It is exam time, but you guys came in your numbers, and I appreciate that. It was encouraging and both humbling for me that none of our speakers needed convincing to be part of us today. It was an immediate yes. And that speaks of the brand that UNISA is, and I hope we all take pride in that. Let us enjoy ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marco, for giving us some remarks as the head of our research portfolio. On this idea of the Africa we want, that seems to be a buzzword. We have something, the African Union has something called Agenda 2063. The one challenge I have about it, though, is it's quite silent on one very big confrontation we have as a continent, which is the issue of public sector corruption. You know, it does not really deal with it. It does not address it as much as I would have liked it to. But the Africa we want also should speak to certain elements of the management of ethics and integrity violations. Another issue from an academic perspective in terms of foresight, it's an African Union Agenda 2063. The people who have written it, I'm not sure if they'll be able to live to see that 2063. That means that the burden then lies on the emerging politicians, emerging scholars, emerging social scientists. But anyway, that is a discussion probably for another day. Why? Did someone ask why? Because because today we're dealing with a program and it's not part of the program. Okay. We're going to step into now the first presentation in our program. And the first presentation, ladies and gentlemen, will be given by, I didn't see him now, Dr. Lazarus Chapungu. Okay, Dr. Lazarus is there. Okay, most of us might be familiar with Dr. Lazarus Chapungu. He's one of our senior postdoctoral fellows, situated in one of our entities in the college, that is the ICC. Dr. Chapungu has a broad research interest underpinned by a specialization in the areas of geography and environmental sciences. And I think if you have read his work, you will have seen that his work presents an interplay of policy, socio-economic development, and also environmental sciences, which has culminated in him presenting research and also thought leadership in the space of climate change. You will notice that as we go throughout today that there's quite a strong focus on this theme of sustainability. What is also particularly interesting is that Dr. Chapungu has been a local convener for one of the Harvard University courses, and I think that is the financial economics of climate and sustainability, Dr. Chapungu. Being a postdoc in our space, we know that I don't have to speak about publishing. It's a given as a postdoc. So peer-reviewed articles, those things, you know, the Google Scholar stuff. So we don't have to get into that. But also, I think you've served as a guest editor and an associate editor of some journals, notably a Springer journal, that is the Discover Sustainability Journal. We are looking forward, Dr. Chapungu, to listen to some of the perspectives that you'll give on the infusion of CNA. You've probably seen, if there's a UNISA employee who doesn't know what CNA, I suppose if there are parents, they know CNA is something else. But at UNISA, CNA, and I know that this year particularly, CNA is somewhere in an agreement. But anyway, it's not my topic, it's Dr. Chapungu's topic. Dr. Chapungu, we are looking forward to listening to you, sir.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please pardon my voice. I'm recovering from a cold, but I hope that I'll be clear enough. So my talk today is on infusing catalytic niche areas in the College of Economic and Management Sciences. And I'll focus on the marine studies catalytic niche area. I must indicate before I start my presentation that there's a lot of teamwork in our institute. You might already know that I'm from the Institute for Corporate Citizenship, and we work as a team. So this presentation belongs to the institute as a whole. So I'm sure we are all familiar with this slide. The chair has already alluded to this to say, if you don't know CNAs, there's something wrong somewhere. I'm sure you have seen this slide. quite often. So these are the 10 catalytic niche areas which were proclaimed by the VC in 2021. But today I'm going to focus on marine studies catalytic niche area. As you can see on that slide, we are saying the marine studies catalytic niche area is central to all the catalytic niche areas because of its multidisciplinary nature, because of its interdisciplinary nature, as well as transdisciplinary nature. There's nothing that you can not study under the marine studies catalytic niche area. And as a team, as we were working and thinking around this catalytic niche area, we said we need to add a certain component because we can't study the marine environment and exclude the coastal areas. So we are saying we need to rename this catalytic niche area to say marine and coastal studies catalytic niche area, because there is an intrinsic relationship between the coastal areas and the marine environments. So it is quite central. And its centrality also points to the fact that as a college, we also need to pay attention to this one. We need to focus on it. Once we focus on this one, we are also able to address other catalytic niche areas. So why is this catalytic niche area important, maybe for us to focus on it? At a global scale, you would find that a lot of marine issues are quite key, right? To start with, the marine environment or the oceans or the water covers more than 70% of the Earth's surface. So this means that this is an important area. And the fact that it covers more than 70% of the Earth's surface means that it influences what happens in the environment. The interaction of the 5 spheres of the environment depends on the ocean environment. So we really need to study it more, understand what happens there, the trends and dynamics around the marine environment. So it's very key. So as you can see on my slide, we do have quite a number of people who are located in the coastal areas around the globe. We've got millions of people. And these millions of people are affected by the marine environment. So it is important for us to understand the trends and dynamics, what is happening around those environments. Because these people, they interact with the oceans and a lot is happening there. So we must be involved as a college to understand what is happening there in terms of economic development, in terms of environmental impacts and other issues around the marine environment. The other reasons why we need to focus on this catalytic niche area is also that it is of strategic relevance to national, continental, and international agendas. Here we are talking about South Africa's Operation Phakisa. I'm sure we all know about this one, which was launched in July 2014. And it focuses on exploiting the ocean environment, development of the blue economy. And it is expected that we need to create over 1 million jobs from this operation, Phakisa, from the ocean environment. Here we are also talking about the AU's Agenda 2063. It emphasizes the issue of developing Africa based on ocean resources as well. Focusing on Aspiration 1 and Aspiration 6, they allude to the development of the ocean environment as well. They're talking about sustainable development and the need for inclusive growth using locally available resources. And we also have the Africa Blue Economy Strategy, right? So if we focus on this catalytic niche area, we are also able to show the strategic relevance of what we do to national, continental, and international agendas. Currently, the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment is developing a a coastal adaptation response plan. And in that plan, they are focusing on the coastal areas, resilience of the coastal regions, and it's going to be launched on 5 June this year. So it emphasizes the importance of the coastal areas as well as the marine area. So we need to be found in that space to be also contributing to that agenda. Then the other importance is that marine area is of economic significance, very important, because the coastline of South Africa spans over 3,000 kilometers with an exclusive economic zone 3 times larger than its landmass. So that's quite massive, right? So the blue economy is projected to contribute billions to the national GDP and create thousands of jobs. So we need to also be found in that space and contribute to economic development. Then there's the issues around inclusivity and community impact. Like I indicated earlier on, a lot is happening in the coastal regions. So we want to be found in that space where we also promote empowerment of disadvantaged groups, right? Empowerment of women, youth, and small enterprises that are linked to the ocean environments. And the issue of funding, we know that research projects, they need significant funding. So if we are to do something significant in terms of research, we need to be found in that space again, because there is a lot of funding that is coming in that space. From, for example, we've got the NRF, the Global Environmental Facility, EU, Horizon, World Bank, UNESCO. So they are prioritizing this space in terms of funding. So as scholars, we need to be found in that space as well, so that we enhance our research activities through those funding opportunities that exist in that space. Then again, this catalytic niche area is also aligned with this college's academic and research mandate. So just by looking at its name, right? So we have a lot of economics involved in that space, management, finance issues, public administration, etc. So we really need to focus on that. So sometimes research and maybe academic activities should be designed to address problems that exist in our environments. So we do have quite a lot of challenges around the marine, coastal areas that we need to address at a local level as well as at a global level, right? So that slide shows a variety, or quite a deluge of problems that we face. For example, pollution, waste, climate change issues, economic vulnerability of specific groups, maritime security issues, social and livelihood challenges, environmental degradation, and ecosystem loss. So given the existence of these problems, as academics, it is our responsibility to come up with solutions to address some of these challenges. So this catalytic niche area provides us the opportunity to be relevant, to also address and contribute to the solutions to all these problems that exist. As Africa, we do have quite a number of strategies or policy frameworks that have been put across to address some of these challenges. And as academics, we also want to be found in that space where we now try to fulfill some of the mandates, some of the aspirations of these policies. For example, we've got the Africa Blue Economic Strategy, Agenda 2063, UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, Africa Integrated Marine Strategy 2050. All these are trying to address the problems that exist. So we need to be found in those spaces as well, right? The Sustainable Development Goals, I'm sure most of us are aware of the Sustainable Development Goals. We also need to build on that. So this catalytic niche area is based on SDG 14 and its targets. So our emphasis now is on that SDG, but you'd find that it is interconnected with all the SDGs. So our involvement in that space will help us also to develop and make progress towards achieving sustainable development goals. Right. So from our research and analysis of issues around the ocean economy, we identified 8 key nodes that we are saying as a college, these are the nodes that we need to focus on. We might not address all the nodes, but we must find ourselves in more than one of these nodes. So we found that these nodes include ecological and biological issues, geological and physical, chemistry and physics, technological and methodological issues, environment and climate change, socio-economic and policy issues, human impact, databases, interaction and awareness raising, governance issues, safety and security. These are the key nodes that we identified to say, if we focus on these nodes, we should be able to tackle some of the problems around the ocean, the marine environment. Each of these nodes has several research and innovation priorities, and I'm not going to talk about all of them, but here I'm just presenting an example. For example, we've got climate change issues. There are a lot of research priorities around climate change, and according to Sandifer and Scott 2021, these are the various priority issues here in terms of research as well as innovation, right? He was talking about health and well-being, health threats and benefits, modeling, food, water, housing security, human behavior. So here we're just highlighting some of the issues that we need to focus on. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in this area. And we did a further bibliometric analysis of issues around the ocean, around the marine environment. And we identified quite a number of emerging clusters where research is starting to take place, and we also need to find ourselves in that space. So I also thought about, okay, what is the natural fit for the College of Economics and Management Sciences? And I observed that there is quite a lot that we can also do. So in terms of the natural fit for the college, we have issues like maritime transport, ports, logistics, coastal tourism and recreation, fisheries economics, marine natural capital accounting, entrepreneurship and innovation in coastal communities. So no academic is going to say, I have no space in marine studies. Look at the diversity of areas where we need to focus on. So now the question is, how can the College of Economics and Management Sciences embed these areas? One, we can propose short learning programs to address some of these areas, some of these issues. We need to identify skills needs, knowledge needs, right? I've highlighted some of them already. So we need to come up with short learning programs so that we also get involved in marine studies. Postgrad tracks and research focus areas, right? Focusing on marine issues, integration with existing programs, for example, environmental economics, development finance, public policy, right? And we also need to open a new wave of systematic reviews on marine studies to further identify gaps that exist, also to get a clear understanding of what is happening in the marine area so that we clearly locate ourselves within the broader marine studies niche area. Then we also need to focus on building our capacity in terms of marine research. As a team, as an institute, we are trying our best, but we still have areas that we need to develop in terms of marine research. We don't know everything. We are still trying to build our capacity. So I'm saying as a college now, we also need to ensure that we build our capacity in marine research so that we significantly contribute to discourse around marine issues, right? We also need to establish a trans, multi, and interdisciplinary research unit focusing on marine and coastal studies. That is quite key. Then we also need to publish locally useful and globally relevant scientific papers, right? So we do research, we focus on research, and we are saying our research must be impactful at the local level, and it must also be relevant at the global level, right? And there has to be a deliberate focus on innovation. I'm going to highlight some of these issues. I'm going to show some of these issues that we are trying to work on. So when we talk about locally useful and globally relevant research, this is what we are trying to say. This is just the information that I got from Web of Science. So that's Professor Namo, that's myself. So we are saying, from what we've been doing so far, our papers are widely cited at a global level. This is information from Web of Science. So as you can see, at global level, those are citations distributed across the continents. And this work was done in Africa by Africans, and it's being cited in all the continents, as you can see. So what are we saying? We're saying, as we venture into the marine studies area, we also want to make an impact there. Let's do our research locally, and that research must be relevant in that local context. And it also must be relevant at the global scale so that we have that impact. Scholars in America should cite us. Scholars in Asia must cite us. That shows the importance of the research that we are doing. So in the marine and coastal research space, our new focus, and we are very deliberate about this, we are saying our new focus should be on innovations. Yes, we've been publishing. We must move from theory to practice and make sure that we come up with products that serve the local communities. But those same products must also be of relevance at the global level. So our planned area of focus as an institute, and of course as a college, because we are part of this college, our planned areas of focus with ready proposals. So we have proposals that are ready for implementation. So what we are basically doing now is to look for funds to implement these proposals, right? So these include climate use, loss and damage, net zero and just global transitions, coastal resilience, access and livelihoods, women and youth in marine sciences, ocean, marine and coastal governance issues, right? But we are not saying we are confining ourselves to this, but this is what we have currently. But we are still exploring to understand other areas, and also we want to intervene in those areas. So what have we done so far? So far we have developed a university-wide strategic document which is focusing on marine studies. We have built a wide and diverse partnership base, including government institutions, universities, and the private sector, right? So on that slide, you can see that team of academics from various universities, from various colleges, right? Here we were doing the process of co-designing, co-creating some research agenda along the coastal areas, right? So we were also mobilized and sensitized UNISA, coastal campuses, and coastal stakeholders. You know, UNISA is blessed because we do have some campuses along the coastline. So we can't really start the marine environment from here. We need to be there. So we've mobilized our coastal campuses and stakeholders who are there, and so that they know the work that we want to do. So we've developed research proposals that are ready for funding applications. That's what we've done as well. And we are in the process of gathering knowledge so that we become strong in this area. So there are so many strategies that we are trying to implement so that we become champions in this area. So far we have 2 calls for book chapters. The first one is already closed, but the other one is still open, right? And we are doing a lot of systematic literature analysis. And I'm also going to talk about the conference that we are organizing around these areas. Because our aim is to occupy the space, understand a lot of things so that we contribute meaningfully in that area. We've also entered into a strategic partnership with Buffalo City on a near zero wastewater treatment project. I'm going to briefly talk about it. Engaged strategic partners for potential funding, right? There's a lot of talks around funding with private institutions and other funding bodies. So we have also prepared a detailed proposal for a trans, inter, and multidisciplinary research program. I think we've approached quite a number of you to be part of that team. And we've started placing some postdoctoral research fellows in regional coastal campuses. And these are technical people who are going to be involved in our drive towards innovations in the marine space. So let me briefly talk about the Buffalo City Net Zero and Climate Resilient project. So we had a visit to the Buffalo City. We established a very good relationship, and we identified a problem in terms of wastewater management, and we are working together with that with the Buffalo City in trying to bring solutions to problems that they are facing, right? So we are developing that net near zero emissions and climate resilient wastewater treatment works. And currently there's still a lot of paperwork that we are doing, but this is a project that is at an advanced stage. So in this project, we are trying to make sure that we do full automation of the system, wastewater management system. We want to install and generate renewable energy, effluent recycling for industrial or domestic use, climate risk and vulnerability assessment leading to climate resilience system, a harmonization of scientific, traditional, local, indigenous, and other forms of knowledge systems, explore digital twinning possibilities, investigate potential for carbon credits, and so it's a loaded project. It's a practical project. So we are trying to say, let's come up with practical solutions to these problems. Right, in addition to what we're doing with Buffalo City, under the All Atlantic Ocean program, we've also identified Saldanha Bay as a proposed beacon site. There's a lot that we're going to do in that area to address a lot of problems that existed there. So we are working with quite a number of partners. So to come up with innovations, to come up with systems that help in addressing challenges that are faced there. One of the issues is around early warning systems, right? We want to bring maybe the use of artificial intelligence and various other, new technologies in the early warning system, space. Then I have already alluded to this one. We are organizing an international conference. This one, what we do is we just plan, and I know that money follows good ideas. So we are looking for funds to make sure that this is done. This is one of the ways in which we are trying to build our knowledge, because once you manage a conference and you are gathering information, you're gathering knowledge, so you increase your understanding of issues around that. So in addition to the book projects that we have, we are also organizing an international conference. And I'm sure that in this room, there could be 1 or 2 funders who will be willing to work with us. I'm sure about that. Right, so the conference has got quite a number of themes, and I'm sure each of us here will find space, because we try to be as broad as possible in terms of thematic areas that are going to be addressed by this conference. Please come and support us in managing this conference. Thank you so much. Then this is my last slide. We are saying, as an institute or also as a college, we need to come up with an efficient, effective, collaborative framework with key stakeholders. And some of the key stakeholders in this space are government departments, because they determine what happens and what does not happen. So we are quite deliberate about, formulating a collaborative framework with government departments. So we came up with quite a number of strategies that we're saying, as a college, as UNISA, there's something that we need to do, but the government departments, there's also something that they also have to do. We work together with them to create an enabling environment, an environment that will enable us to innovate, an environment that will enable us to research and come up with solutions to the problems that I've highlighted earlier on, right? So there are issues around policy and strategic alignment, funding and resource allocation, data sharing and research support. Some government departments, they have very important data that we need as academics to analyze, understand the trends and dynamics in the ocean environment and stuff like that. So we need to partner them so that they share that national environmental data and facilitate, field access at times, right? Stakeholder engagement, aspects, regulatory approvals, advocacy, and public awareness. So they have a role to play. Integration into national programs. We may come up with solutions, but if the government is not aware, if the government does not approve, we will not be able to transform lives. So we need to work together with them. Monitoring and evaluation aspects, right? We need to define, measurable outcomes and monitor impact at national level and stuff like that. So ladies and gentlemen, this brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much, and back to you, Chair. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your very insightful presentation, Dr. Chapungu. Although I think when you mentioned that you are certain there is an individual in this room that is going to fund your conference, you were looking at the wrong side. It's supposed to be on the other side. I think there is a cost center there that may be relevant to your course. But anyway, Madam Dean, I'm not saying anything. Though I do want to ask, I do want to just check, how many of us go to the ocean and are thinking research? I was trying to think when that has ever happened with me. I'm not sure that has happened. But I'll use your terminology, Dr. Chapungu. You used coastal tourism. Maybe that's what most of us do. But I doubt. Perhaps it's a challenge to us to think a little bit about the research. He's invited us to come into this maritime space as well. It's particularly interesting, Dr. Chapungu, because on those rare occasions that I am at the beachfront, I never think about maritime security risks, which is a thing. But I'm glad that you've put us at ease that there is something like maritime governance, and some of us who work in the space of public policy can contribute to maritime policy as well. So thank you very much, Dr. Chapungu, for your presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to move forward now to the keynote address that is going to be delivered by a certain Mr. Quinton Zunga, not Zungu, Zunga. And I did receive your bio and CV, by the way, and there is absolutely no way that I can talk about the things you have done or achieved. And probably people will figure that out. However, Mr. Zunga is the CEO. Earlier, we spoke about another abbreviation, which we spoke about CNA, the catalytic niche area. Now we're still dealing with another one, CEO. It's the one that we're normally used to, Chief Executive Officer. He's the CEO of RH Managers, but somewhere along the line I also saw RH Bupelo. Bupelo is loosely translated to health, right? Okay, CEO. The founder and CEO, right? Okay, fine. Let's also leave other issues like the fact that you have both a Bachelor of Science and a Master of Science at the University of London. Okay, we'll put it on the side. All right. But also, RH Bupelo seems to be JSE listed. Okay, that's fine. We'll put it on the side. It also seems to be that you've been quite instrumental in the business leadership for over 20 years. That is a long time, I must say. But also, I'm not particularly focused on that. I want to also leave out the small matter that you have the third largest fully black-owned private equity business in SA, with a smaller amount. We are not yet at the point where I want to address what I want to address. This equity business is dealing with a smaller amount of 6 billion. Dr. Chapungu, are you listening? Okay, that's fine. But that is also not my concern. There is something there about the Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Barclays across several countries in Africa, and where you've generated transactions to the more than $2 billion, and that is quite impressive. I also do not necessarily want to discuss how you have managed to build a portfolio of 30 private hospitals. But now this is in 8 provinces, and we do know that we've got 9. So which one is missing? It may be that 500-bed Polokwane Academic Hospital that is being built. If you go drive that side and you pass the stadium, Peter Mokaba Stadium, you will see that hospital. That's there. And in that project, you are currently contributing 3,000 jobs across 50 small, micro, and medium enterprises. Okay, no, that's quite impressive. All right, no, so I'm assuming that's Limpopo is the last province. No, it's not. Okay, that's fine. Because it says 8 provinces here, and we know Charlotte Macke Academic, we know Steve Biko. That academic hospital, it might be the one. Ladies and gentlemen, let me then welcome the CEO of RH Managers and RH Bupelo, Mr. Quentin Zunga, to give us some insights on today's topic that he's going to cover for us. Mr. Zunga.
I have to adjust the microphone. Thank you very much. As he prepares, yes, thank you. I have a hybrid kind of presentation because I'm a man of many words. And when I saw keynote speaker, I was happier. And then I received an email that give us a presentation. I was less happy. So I decided to do both in the spirit of it is the same for Africa. The saying is that Africa is the last frontier. I would like to disagree wholesomely with that narrative. And I know that's a very challenging thing to do with very learned academics like yourselves. So the first thing I would like to do is honor our roots. As a health company, it is about people. Africa's and our story is neither an invention nor a borrowed input. It is a deeply historic, generationally adaptive in so many ways, and one could say more adaptive to some of the global methods. We often compare ourselves with a lot of emerging Western frameworks. We often compare ourselves and measure ourselves as developing. But one has to consider that in healthcare specific, deeply developed systems came from local understanding both on medicinal value and care systems. And from an African perspective, it's very important to note that we're probably the last to adopt Western methodologies, but we survived long without that. From the medicines of the Ashanti to the pre-colonial healing guides of the Great Lakes, African medicine was governed by systems of evidence, peer training, spiritual ethics, long before stethoscopes arrived. So the notion of Ubuntu is not just about taking care of each other from a culture and ethics point of view. It was deeply rooted in medicinal foundations. And the notion of one's health being inextricably tied to the well-being of the community is not a new phenomenon that came under the term herd immunity with COVID. It was something that we already were doing and adapting to with each passing disease burden. So these primitive systems have to be documented, and I assume you're the right people to do it, in order for them to take a local character, but with very global relevance. We have been resilient. And as I go through my speech, I decided to stay away from data for obvious reasons, working with academics, and just stick to experiential situation. That's why the picture is the first and last page of my presentation, my hybrid strategy. So, across the continent, healthcare resilience has historically come from state infrastructure and donor intervention, which means a lot now with President Trump. It has come from it. I submit that it can be better suited and better utilized coming from the genuity of communities that are under constraint. Whether surviving pandemics like Ebola or adapting to post-conflict trauma, the populations in Africa have been able to survive and continuously tend community health structures, informal care networks, and traditional knowledge to bridge the gaps that were left by formal systems which have been more often underfunded. So, where does RH fit in? Master of Ceremony, I know nothing in my CV was the relevant point. I was waiting for you to say what is going to be interesting. But at Irish Managers, we have a philosophy which is very African and very intentional. At Irish Managers, we have made a deliberate choice to see our African heritage not as nostalgic window dressing, but as an asset class in its own right, which means it can be monetized. We believed heritage can be capitalized. Ooh, these are nice words. Scaled and and it can be treated with respect and rigor and scientific validation that makes it national assets. So our model has been trying to blend healthcare infrastructure by investing in healthcare delivery models that embed traditional knowledge and system, not erase them. Supporting the formalization of networks into referral pipelines for diagnostics and telehealth. Funding IP, which is not marine systems as yet, for validation of plant-based remedies and commercial export potentials. Supporting language-based decision-making tools recognizing cultural diagnostic patterns, and partnering with local and rural councils to form structures that support our infrastructure in the 8 out of the 9 provinces that we're in. And the 9th province is Northern Cape. I'm sure, academically speaking, you know why. So, we are not replacing but enhancing and amplifying our healthcare systems. In these 9 provinces, we are mainly based in rural South Africa. 70% of our hospitals are not in the urban, nice places like here in Sandton. They are in villages, in provinces across the country, and I will show you some of our hospitals if this is not the last page. So, there is a false dichotomy between tradition, modernity, which must be rejected. At our age, we have embarked on a... Oh, no, yeah. Okay, yeah. So he's saying it's not moving, like it's intentional. Because what comes after it is not very scientific. And what we have tried to do is aggregate capital and funding for a thematic that is not yet really struck home, but we believe in the fullness of time we will get somewhere. We are obviously located in places that may not show some of them on the map, but are important nonetheless because they contribute to the whole understanding of the healthcare ecosystems. You'll be surprised to know that a lot of the clinical trials for global relevance are done in Africa. And it's a very weird system because when the medicine is IP is copyrighted, or if that's the word, it is done in the Western using Africa as the place to test if it works. But we have not realized that is money. And one of our businesses which we're pursuing is into clinical trials where Western companies pay hundreds and thousands of dollars to just test some medicines on the general population. In fact, the selection criteria has to be very generic to make sense. It's not a pre-selected group of people, otherwise the data is biased. I'm sure where I'm going is not where I should be going, speaking to academics. So, what does that mean? Local for us is very important. And I'm sure, speaking to yourselves, you understand the relevance and the importance of information and data. So we are taking on a global narrative but making it very local. We are trying to be very national but very international at the same time. And we believe that the information we have is more relevant to the world than we are told that it is. That is the agenda we sought when we started this company, and we started to look for a few billions nyana to pursue an untested idea that we believe we should have a black-owned, black-managed hospital group that tries to reach the local populations that are underserved, and also tries to address the issue of affordability by improving the referral networks of clinical pathways. So our innovation is by being less innovative. Our innovation is by being less sophisticated, but picking up on what is often overlooked by the average person and making it valuable to the local healthcare systems, but also to international and global, for global relevance. So I wanted to show a lot of data and a lot of graphs about how Africa is important and what Africa knows is important and what we have in South Africa is important. But I realized that, oh, this fact could be fact-checked. So with all this the dean will fact-check it, and then I'll be found wanting. So I didn't. I just started by what can I tell my audience, and this is a very rare occurrence for us, for me, to be speaking to academics as one who has left the academic field a long time ago. Yeah. So I thought to myself, so what can I talk about innovation? We are, as RH managers, not designing new drugs. We are not properly trying to create new artificial intelligence models, but we are trying to be as African and as focused on the local community as possible. So what I thought could be interesting to you, which is a very big assumption, would be actually what we have been doing and actually what we can tell you. Because I realize the only thing I can tell you, which I may know more about, is funding and fundraising. Because for me, it's not a research topic, it's what I do every day. So, and I can sit at this table and debate with some confidence because we open different doors. And if I tried to open the doors of scientific analysis, I would be found wanting. So at RH Managers, we have been trying to put a portfolio. Our approach has been looking at underserved. It is cross-vertical, platform-oriented. We are investing and scaling. We are building hospitals. We are by far the biggest constructor of hospitals in the country, which is shocking because we don't have the most money, but we feel the importance of healthcare infrastructure. And it hasn't been an easy road. It hasn't been an easy path Yes, we have been able to aggregate 6 billion, which you mustn't ask me where it is now. It's finished. That's why I'm here, not in the office. I'm kidding. But it has gone in the ground to build systems. We are also a big supporter of the government build program. He is right, we have been the technical partner of the Limpopo Academic Hospital. We have been the technical partner for Cecilia Makiwani, Nelson Mandela Bay, Siloam Hospital, and many others which I will venture into. The closest of our facilities is in Centurion, which is not a rural area, but once was. So I think it fits the criteria. And we do look to expanding this portfolio into more areas within South Africa. So the innovation for our growth, which is very interesting because being a large black-owned or medium-scale black-owned company, we want to celebrate our African profile. We think where we have reached is innovation enough, because not so many people are there, and it is a very unique character which is important. And speaking to academics, what I am leaving you a sense is the ability to monetize things that are very obvious and overlooked. So our journey, which we did, was not based on being very smart, but just being very aggressive with a thematic which is local. So we celebrate our African heritage. I will explain what those three companies is. It is a mixture between private equity, the first two, and RH Pupilo is a listed company on the JSE. And I am expecting, obviously, after this for you to go rush and buy shares, because we all align on the thematic of local is lacquer. So yes, we are the third biggest private equity firm, black-owned. Was second, maybe third, depends on the particular year. And as you know, data, the beauty of data is in the eyes of the beholder. I always say, as glorified bankers, we always find something that we're on top of the table. So if the table is your number last, you invert it, you say, I'm at the top of the bottom of the table. There's something to always glorify yourself for. And this has been a 10-year journey. It is a 10-year journey of trying to make healthcare localized and trying to convince institutional capital to support a local thematic. It is a complex process. Our investment philosophy, which I won't go through that much, has been just trying to create an ecosystem. So not only do we build hospitals as you know them, we also invest in primary healthcare systems. We have primary healthcare in many townships across the country, where we are partnering with local GPs and creating referral network systems that are important, but also looking to get as much local data and knowledge for our monetization. We build from scratch. Usually I am not in a suit, I'm in a hard hat with boots. I didn't borrow, but as you can see, this suit may or may not fit me that well. I won't explain. I used to fit it much better in a few years ago, but we do build, which is very important for us because it's one of our most defining character, in that a lot of what we call economics of today is about buying existing and just monetizing, but we like to create new things for ourselves. So our structure, which is neither scientific or was very intentionally created, was just basically an avenue of where do we get the money. And I'm sure it is a question not just for Dr. Chapungu, it's for everyone. Where do we get the money? It is important, and we found that what can be innovative around that is you must be all things to all people who have money. Yesterday we witnessed some rich people in the Oval Office, and like, what are they doing there? But that's what the people who have money can afford to do. So we realized that we can't pursue only a private agenda. We aggregated pension funds in unlisted, which is private, and then we aggregated funding from a listed. I'm sure as academic you have many budding ideas, and I would kindly submit that if they're anywhere health related, bring them to me so that we apply them to this model and get the money. So that is how we then put up this structure, raising money in different platforms depending on the need. The thematic that we went by was, which you probably are aware, is healthcare in South Africa is a challenge. Everybody who's never been in a hospital, both private and public, would not know what I'm talking about. But if you have, you realize that the private sector is very expensive, right? I know because I charge people on that thematic. And the public sector is very overcrowded. So nobody's really happy. Nobody's happy with the status quo. And we thought, instead of going to UNISA and doing a PhD, let us go and sell this idea and raise a couple of billions on a problem which everybody knows but may not want to do anything about, depending on their economic situation. So we then created an ecosystem. After we got the billions, we said, wow, we never thought anyone would believe us. In fact, the first check to us came as a significant surprise that I was much younger. I know you're talking about 20 years in the industry. I was very young. I was, without giving away my age, I was in my late 20s. Late 20s, just as a banker, looking at money flows and realizing, well, this, if I can spin this working for the bank, I'm sure I can spin this working for myself. And that's what happened. So by the age of 30, we had R1 billion allocated to us, and quite frankly, it was so surprising we had to rework our models because we thought we were never going to get a cent. But when we did get the money, what did we do? We started putting all these funds together. We started investing in Black-owned, smaller hospital groups. We started building. That's the second. So the first was how we were getting the money on the fund management. On the second one is how we were using the money. And the third one was an important part, the financial services. Once you build a hospital, the next big problem is how do people use it? As you know, you can't just walk in a hospital, and if you walk there as a cash patient, I will charge a lot of money, a couple of $100,000 just to walk in. So we had to say this doesn't work. The population in South Africa is under serious. Is my time up? Oh, I got carried away. The population in South Africa is seriously economically burdened, and we had to find products that will range from hundreds to less than 1,000 for you to access our hospital. And then obviously the last part is that we then went and say, if we can do something in South Africa, we're going to do it across the continent. And subsequently we listed on the Rwanda Stock Exchange. So we're listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange and the Rwanda Stock Exchange. Obviously, politically, might not make a lot of sense. I won't go through our history. I've run out of time. I was going to go through year by year. For those of interest, you can always get the presentation. And then I will talk about some of the hospitals we've built. I'm not sure if the color is clear there. The first ones were not in the cheapest of places. I would go through Eden Gardens in Pietermaritzburg, Leboa Como in Limpopo, Kiat is in Nelspruit, Bella Bella, Piet Retief, Barberton. If anyone comes from there, you are my friend, and your family should come to our hospitals at a smaller fee. Machabeng in Velcom, Stenga, Kwadukuza. This was the first set of hospitals we did. We came back, second set. Interesting places, Raslo I mentioned, Lesego in Mokwase, Royal Buffalo in East London, Beggarsford, we are halfway built, we're finishing, and then obviously the listing. So our footprint, as you can see, only Northern Cape is not there, right? So if there's someone from Northern Cape, please tell us where the people are, because we can't find them. But I'm sorry, that might that might lose me my next speaking engagement. And then we were recognized as one of the best private equity 2023. I don't know what happened last year. So some of the hospitals we've built, and I'll just really leave it there. Just because of time, I do speak quite a lot, so unfortunate, because that's how we get money. You have to tire the investors by long presentation. You know what? Here's the money. So that is unfortunate, but the reality. We are innovative in a different way. We do think global means local first. We do want to make sure our local systems, the local way we do things, how we take care of each other in the village, and how we make sure that the sustenance and the support is improved in how we refer to then the hospitals is important. And our story is just black people trying to do different things without as much capital, but with a story that we want to resonate to all people. With that said, and as I have run out of time, thank you very much. As you can see, my presentation was longer. There are a couple of more pages, about 30, which I didn't get to, but I'm sure you have this again next year. I'll finish it off.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zunga, for your presentation. We can talk about we can talk about more time, but we might have to borrow from those funds that you're talking about, so that we can proliferate our research. Okay, thank you for that very insightful presentation, giving us a profile of your company and the good work that you've done. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to now go to our next speaker. I haven't seen the colleagues from the MRM department. I was trying to think of whether Professor Dilotsotle is here. I haven't seen Dr. Gopal. No, not. Okay. Is Prof. Shezi here? Ah, okay. This may be particularly relevant to the MRM guys. Do with this information what you want. That's what I'm trying to say. I want to now introduce our next speaker. That is Ms. Bongiwe Nzeku. And she is the head of Business Development and Support Services at the South African National Convention Bureau. And I think that is a division of the South African tourism, right? Okay, great. But it also appears as if here Yeah, these are people with NQFs. Okay, yes. There's an NQF 9 here in marketing from the Cape Peninsula University of Technology, but also some smaller programs with Stellenbosch and other universities, right? That's what I saw there. But it also appears that she's a advisory board member for the Department of Marketing. Not this department, but at CPUT. That's what I was trying to get to the marketing colleagues, that there's something to look into there in terms of your advisory board. Ms. Nzeku, we are looking forward for you to speak about collaboration. Thank you.
Yeah. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I guess coming from government, you always want to say all protocol observed. And Mr. Zunga, I'm from Northern Cape, in a small town called De Aar. So I'd like to make an appeal. There's Upington, there's De Aar, there's Katu, there's a lot of towns. We would appreciate if you look into bringing a hospital into Northern Cape. Thank you. And Madam Dean, you spoke about the importance of Africa Week and us being Africans. And I learned the other day that Africa is a continent. We have the youngest people. We have the largest population. That means we have so many possibilities and huge potential as the continent. So the National Convention Bureau is a unit within the South African tourism, but our mandate is to market South Africa as a business events destination and also generate leads so that we can bring more meetings. I just want to take you through the importance of marketing a destination through a convention bureau. There's a lot of decision makers around the world that look for us because they want to bring meetings into South Africa. The importance of meetings, of course, is I'm speaking to the converted here, but it's playing in the knowledge economy for the rest of the world to come and learn from us, because we do so many amazing things as South Africa, not only for the continent, but for the globe at large. So typically a convention bureau is a destinations marketing body, and our main role is to sell the destination as a business events destination. We play within the MICE space, as in meetings, incentives, conventions, and exhibitions. So typically, because people who organize, the associations who organize these meetings, the people who host these incentives, know that there is a National Convention Bureau, so we would be their starting point. And also you are a one-stop shop for independent information and assistance. And I know Dr. Chipunga was speaking about hosting a conference. I saw you speaking to my colleagues earlier. I think that you found a potential funder for your conference next year. Also, the reason why we were here last year and we were here as part of the audience, but we made a plea with Dr. Marco, please give us a platform, because we know that a whole lot of academics belong to regional and international associations. So we're here to generate leads with my two colleagues, Sakile and Minister is his name, Minister Khanyago. So because I'm going to leave after presenting, they will stay behind, so you are more than happy to chat to them. And then we also continuously conduct research so that we remain relevant within the business events industry, because when we compete on a global scale. They don't feel sorry for us and say that you are from there, down from the African continent. We all play equally with the other guys. So I'm just gonna take you through what the bid support is. It's basically a non-financial and financial support that we provide to bring meetings, incentives, conventions and exhibitions to South Africa. Typically the support would start anything from 0 to 1 million. But there's criteria, there's a criteria that we need to stick to, and terms and conditions, obviously, because we're dealing with all our money, we are all taxpayers in this room. And then the support program generally includes provision of subsidies so that we take care of the hard costs, such as paying for a venue or hosting a gala dinner. And then our marketing priorities are linked to the National Development Plan 2030. Here we are just highlighting the key sectors, but within these sectors there is subsectors that we can look into. So if you see medical sciences, that's not the end of it all. Once you start having discussion with us, you will see that we have subsections that fall under the sectors. So the support services, anyone who's looking for a convention bureau, we will have these 5 supporting services. Typically, we assist with bid support, and we would then assist with the bid strategy, because other associations have biannual or every 4 years they have meetings. So we would assist with the bid strategy. We'd assist from a destination perspective, because you have the science to it, but we would come with the destination information. Typically, other associations, we also need to do a bit of lobbying to convince the decision makers to bring the meetings to South Africa. We'd assist with the promotion of the bid as well as the bid presentation. The second support service is typically where we win most of our meetings, because if they can see it, they buy it. So if we bring decision makers to South Africa, they actually can see that we have this campus that we can host meetings on. They can see we have a Gautrain. They can see the hotels. They can see we've got the CSIR. So we typically pay 70,000 for 2 economic tickets for decision makers to come and conduct a site inspection. As an example, today we're in Tshwane, so we would work with the Tshwane Convention Bureau to do the ground handling when we bring the decision makers for the bid support. And we'd also assist with convention planning site inspections. Because we are representing the country, we are not allowed to favor anyone, any of the 9 provinces. So it depends entirely on the organizers where they want to go. Once the meeting is secured, we would then assist with convention planning support and information around the planning support in terms of the venues and the suppliers that one can have. And then we've got delegate boosting support. So out of this support that we provide, this is the only funding that's paid up front, because we want to bring as many delegates to the conference. So we pay delegate boosting support up front. We're also building attendance. Also, because we are a long-haul destination, we struggle to attract sometimes as many delegates. So delegate boosting support is there for us to market the conference so that we can attract as many delegates as possible. The last one is on-site event support, which typically looks at us, depending on the magnitude of the event. I know that maybe many of you have been traveling, so at the airport you see there's a lot of G20. So when there's a conference and it's of a huge magnitude, we'd also organize a visibility at the airport for the delegates to see, or we could typically contribute towards a gala dinner. So Minister is sitting right there. So this is the process that he would typically take you through. We've got pre-engagement terms and conditions, which once you approach us, Dr. Chipunga will take you through the pre-engagement terms and conditions, and then we'd have the application, evaluate. So the evaluation determines how much you would then get for your support, and we issue a support letter. This also sometimes assists you as a conference organizer to show whoever that you are bringing that the South African National Convention Bureau is also supporting the event. And then we typically sign a memorandum of agreement, and the last step would be for us to procure. So as typically mentioned, previously mentioned, we only look at events between meetings, incentive, conferences and trade exhibitions, because a lot of you are in academia, typically would probably look at the M at meetings. Also, the number of delegates we support, the conference has to have a minimum of 50 delegates, and also it has to be hosted at least for 2 days for it to qualify for the support. Also, if it's an international event, we require 40% of your attendees to be from the international destinations. But if it's a regional event, we expect 20% to be from the continent. Also, The other thing that influences the scoring is also the economic sectors and the value that the conference that will bring. So we look at whether the event has the business event export stimulus. Does it have foreign direct investment stimulus, trade and industry stimulus, service industry stimulus, knowledge and creative industry stimulus, and also what's the profile that the event will bring for South Africa in particular, and also in terms of seasonality. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my story, and I'm sticking to it. As earlier indicated, I have my two colleagues, Sakile and Lovu. Maybe if you stand up, Sakile, and Minister Khanyago, they will be joining the rest of the conference. And then you can direct the questions, but this is also our details. And thank you for giving us the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation as well, Ms. Nzeku. Before we continue, I'm just going to make a slight amendment, Dr. Mapala, before I give you the platform to do your panel session. I'm just going to request the acting executive dean to come this side to do a mini vote of thanks to our two presenters that I think are going to be leaving. Ms. Nzeku, are you already leaving? I came bearing gifts. Yes, so if you may please. And I think, Mr. Quentin, you're also leaving, so one is yours there. Let me step out of picture. I'm stepping out of the picture now. Thank you, Madam Dean. I'm now going to hand over to Dr. Betty Mapala, the chair of the IOP department, to come and facilitate a panel discussion. Dr. Mapala, the podium is now yours. Thank you.
Our styles are not the same. I would not start by greeting you, but I want to tap on what Mr. Zulu has said, Mr. Zungu has said. As he was telling his story, he said he's honoring his roots. So I want to take you back and remind you that our very own, the Chancellor, Dr. Mbeki, in 1996, this is what he presented. I'm an African. I owe my being to the Khoi and the San, whose desolate souls haunt the great expanses of the beautiful Cape, they who fell victim to the most merciless genocide our native land has ever seen, they who were the first to lose their lives in the struggle to defend our freedom and independence, and they who, as a people, perished in the result. He further said, today, as a country, we keep an audible silence about these ancestors of the generations that live, fearful to admit the horror of a former deed, seeking to obliterate from our memories a cruel occurrence, which in turn, its remembering should teach us not and never to be inhuman again. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure you knew or you know what has happened yesterday, and that's why I'm reiterating these snippets from the poem. My name is Dr. Betty Poshia Mopala, and I will be conducting this session. Firstly, my panelists, let me find out if they are here. All of them are here. Okay, thank you. So it is wonderful to see many of you here today on this important discussion, a key part of UNISA's 2025 Research and Innovation Week for the College of Economic and Management Sciences. Our panel today delves into a theme that is both an inspiration and a critical imperative, proudly African, globally relevant. So this theme or phrase challenges us to think deeply, but it's very versatile as well. Now, in terms of the questions that we will be asking, we are aiming that at the end we'll be having responses from our panelists. And I ask these questions: how do we cultivate and champion research and innovation that is authentically African, addressing our continent's unique context and challenges, yet simultaneously resonates, competes, and contribute meaningfully on a global scale? Some of the speakers have touched on this. But how do we ensure our innovation are not only locally transformative, but also globally significant? These are not small questions, and in answering them, these requires foresight, collaboration, commitment to excellence as such. Okay? And to help us explore the nuances and cover actionable insights, we are privileged to have truly distinguished panel with us. Their collective expertise, it spans the dynamic intersections of technology, entrepreneurship, business development, and investments, all crucial levers of driving innovation. They are leaders and founders actively shaping Africa's innovation landscape. Yes, as I mentioned, my name is Betty, and I'm also Munyadziwa from the Department of Industrial and Organizational Psychology in CAMS. And it will be my genuine pleasure to facilitate the session. Let me formally introduce you to the individuals sharing their valuable perspectives with us. The first one, Mr. Leo Crisp. Please, sir, if you can join us in front. Thank you. Mr. Leo Crisp, he is the principal of Crisp Green Tech. He is a sustainability and energy expert. Leo brings global sustainability and energy investment expertise with a background in journalism and executive education from different institutions. He played a key role in introducing 20 billion euros energy infrastructure investment into Africa in 2022. Our second panelist, Ms. Tendani Mutambi. Please join us, ma'am. Tendani is a seasoned operations and HR executive with over 20 years of experience leading transformation across sub-Saharan Africa. She is a founder and director of Matamando NPC and a former board secretary for the One Campaign in Africa. She has managed $156 million in donor-funded programs. The third panelist, Dr. Naledi Gallant. Where's Doc? Dr. Naledi is a visionary leader in digital transformation, entrepreneurship, and innovation. With a PhD focused on e-commerce adoption in township SMEs, she is passionate about using technology and business to uplift communities and bridge Africa's digital divide. She is the founder of Naki, a tech company and services on advisory boards for UNISA, helping align academia and industry. Dr. Gallant is also a policy contributor for B20, G20 as well. She is a business mentor and a published researcher. Thank you. I also have my fourth panelist. Let me just check. Miss Ramutaka Takalani. Please join us, Takalani. Takalani is the Director of Innovation Programs at the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition, the DTIC, with a focus on the design of programs and instrument support, technology development, and commercialization. She leads the drive towards inclusive innovation, support for grassroots innovators and garage innovators or inventors to ensure participation in the mainstream. She is passionate about local communities, finding solutions to their own problems and commercializing of new ideas. Please welcome our panelists. Give them a big round of applause before we start. Right, I'm gonna be asking very simple questions just to start and for us to be able to interact. Now, in your diverse experience, this is my question. How do you professionally and personally interpret the theme globally? We are globally relevant, but we are proudly African, proudly South African, because most of us here are South Africans. In your personal space, what is it that makes you proudly African? Leo, can I start with you? What is it that makes you proudly African?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'll go straight ahead. I think what makes me proudly African is when I wake up, see the beauty of our continent, and the beauty of the people, and the resilience to get through many of the challenges we face daily. I think that's it. Thank you.
All right, we move to the second panelist because I'm going to ask each one of you just to share their story about being proudly African. Okay.
Thank you. Good morning. And thank you for having me. For me, being proudly African is to showcase our resilience, is to be proud of who we are and how our cultures and how our principles have shaped the global politics. It's about how we can stand tall in realizing that principles like Ubuntu have not only shaped leadership principles in research industries, but even in areas where it reminds people that we need to not only empathize with each other, but we need to be considerate of each other's needs and also respect each other. And professionally, I interpret this as a call to elevate African intellectual and cultural, as well as practical contributions to global development. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gallant.
Firstly, thank you so much for the opportunity to be part of this really important dialogue. I think for me, being proudly African, is really just being able to showcase the uniqueness of, being on this wonderful continent and being able to see that as a competitive edge to the rest of the world. Most of what we do, as the previous panelists have said, shows our resilience, especially, given what we've been through, our ability to work together as a community and stand together, through the ups and downs, And more importantly, just always having that positive outlook in terms of the future of the African continent, and wanting to showcase to the rest of the world what Africa is actually capable of.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Cullen?
Thank you. I also like to appreciate the opportunity to be here as a panelist and also as a policymaker. It's always a pleasure to interact with academics because we get to feed from you. For me, being proudly African means the special ability to navigate difficult circumstances, achieve with limited resources. Africa is associated with poverty, suffering, and hardships. When you look at the African child, when you look at the African academic today, when you look at the African businessman and the African innovator, they are cheerful, they are hopeful. Last night, I think we got a little bit of a sight of what being African means. It means being graceful, even in the midst of calamity, discomfort, and ridicule. So for me, being African is this warm feeling of richness that we have as Africans. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to touch on what Doctor has said, because I think this next question will relate better as well to you. So what about our theme? In terms of our theme then, what would be driving impactful research and innovation from our continent to the world? Dr. Gallant. What would be driving impactful research and innovation from our continent to the world?
Okay, thank you so much for that very interesting question. I think firstly, it's quite important for us to be in tune with the strategies that we are putting together for the future of Africa. Interestingly enough, by a show of hands, how many of you in this room know the 20 goals that were set by the AU Agenda 2063 for the first 10-year implementation? Does anybody know in this room? That's quite interesting, because this is basically where I'm going to, is that it's quite important to make sure that when we develop these goals, we bring everyone along. It's very important to make sure that these goals that we aspire for are ingrained in the ordinary people of the African continent. It must be like the 10 Commandments. It must be like the national anthem. People must know this like people know the vision and mission of an organization. And once you have that, it makes it so much easier to always make sure that whatever you build it by design, and you start with the end in mind. And that goes to our researchers. When they start working on research, it's quite important for them to know that on the African continent, these are some of the objectives, these are some of the strategies, these are some of the goals that we're working towards. And when I'm putting together this research, this is the outcome that I plan to achieve. And in that way, there is a lot more purpose. You are now solving real African problems. You are part of the solution, because a lot of the times when we go to these conferences and we listen to parliamentary or delegates, they always talk about not leaving anybody behind. But as you can see, we've got the AU Agenda 2063. A lot of the people are not part of that. They don't know much about it. And so it makes it very difficult for us to be able to work together towards attaining these goals that will make us also proudly African, because we are able to achieve these together. And so in essence, what I'm saying is that it's quite important to make sure that as researchers, we need to ask ourselves, before we start going on this master's journey or a PhD journey, what am I going to use this research for? Am I going to be able to commercialize it? Am I going to be able to implement it? Will it be able to inform policy? And that is basically where the global relevance comes into the picture.
Yeah, I think I liked Dr. Chapungu's presentation because it was showcasing what UNISA is coming up with, and we can be able to showcase that globally as such. Leo, I'm coming to you and I'm asking, what are the most significant opportunities for African research and innovation in addressing continent's unique challenges? I don't want us to talk about the challenges, but also let's just try and look at what would be the opportunities, because once we start with challenges, we'll leave this room tomorrow. We know we've got many challenges here, and Africa, with its own polarities, there's many examples that we can cite. So help us there. Where are the significant opportunities?
Okay, I'll try my best to help, but I think I'll also stick to the topic or the theme from Dr. Chipunga maybe.
Yeah.
In terms of coastal cities and the ocean economy. Localized manufacturing, particularly in the fields that I come from, which is energy. I would say that there is what you call an energy mix, but it seems like technologies are preferred, which are solar, and then there's onshore wind. But all of these technologies need components, and they all need ports, and they need the blue economy as well. Not only for trade, but for moving components into those markets. So I think we need to do a lot of research onto what components can be done in which parts of the continent, and so that we do not compete in terms of our African Free Trade Agreement. We can then look at other technologies, pumped hydro, biogas, biomass, have not been rolled out that effectively yet. And there are opportunities, especially where there's not good sunlight and not good wind. In South Africa, KwaZulu-Natal is one of those provinces. But it's how do you link business, civil society, labor, and bring them to the conversation. I think my panelists said that we need to be part of these conversations. If we look at, we've got the youngest population in the world as a continent. As the global south, we are the majority in the world. We are a rich continent, minerally very, very rich in South Africa and across the continent. But we do not see the beneficiation of those assets, both above the ground and underground and in the water. We do not benefit from that. So I think there's large opportunities linking ports. I think there's 600 ports in Africa and about 100 commercial ports. How do you look at opportunities in that and linking it to opportunities in the interior of the continent?
Yeah.
One of those could be perhaps look at an area called Katu. I know our guest speaker said he does not look into the Northern Cape due to the population size. But I think there are colleagues in this room who know Katu, Postmasburg. There's mining opportunities there. There's mining happening. There's the Sishen-Saldanha rail route, which has lots and lots of opportunities. The ports are being expanded in Saldanha Bay. There is a new port as well in the Northern Cape under construction, which is looking at green hydrogen. And then that also has its own offspring and new opportunities. Green ammonia, green methanol, and it needs a lot of water. And in my space we're operating, we also look at alternative water solutions. And all of these technologies, whether it's the AI or tech and digitization, they need local components, local manufacturing. So if you look at the Sishen-Saldanha rail route, there's an opportunity in Katu. It might not have big, large populations, but there are a lot of opportunities based on the rail route straight to the port. So you can manufacture here, you can bring international partners, partner with local companies, and then you have your route to market to export around the world. So I think those are key special economic zones one should look at, and how do you involve both the interior of the country or the continent to the coastal port cities.
Thank you.
very much.
Can I move to Mr. Galane and then just find out, I think, from trade and industry perspective and from government's perspective, what would be the priorities then as key strategic actionable steps that we need to take to make sure that this theme of ours is realized, that we're proudly African and at the same time globally relevant?
Perhaps maybe I need to go back a little bit and share with you the Global Innovation Index. In 2024, SA was found to be 69th on the list. About 4 years prior, we were about, I think, 60th. That means we are dropping bit by bit. Now, we can't compete by doing or repeating whatever that other countries are doing. So it's very important that then we look inside ourselves. Africa is rich. Africans have ways. Africans didn't have so many hospitals, etc. But people weren't dying. They had medication. They had so tapping into indigenous knowledge systems that exist within us as Africans. As the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, specifically my role, we look at grassroots innovators. So we go to communities, rural as they are, some won't even speak English, they can't even write, and look at ways and products that they've invented in their own circumstances, trying to solve their own local problems. And then bit by bit, journey with them, together with our friends from universities, your engineers and scientists, to an extent where we can commercialize then the innovation and take it to the world. There's been very positive responses, for example, towards African medicines in the East, in China. A lot of our clients that we've supported, herbalists, etc., they're able to sell their products. They are found to be very few preservatives, but natural remedies which we have put through our national system of innovation and technical infrastructure, the necessary tests, and ensured safety. So, in essence, it's very important that we tap into that which we have inside us, within us, that makes us different from the world.
Thank you. I'm going to get to Mr. Ndani now because I think one of the strategies is talent cultivation. I want you to embark more on talent cultivation. We know that war on talent is upon us, and now we're competing with people from global. And their skills, they might even be better. I don't want to use that word, but they might have been advantaged in terms of acquiring skills. So please just talk about us, what we need to do to be able to say we are prioritizing our talent within our country. And this is one of the strategy in terms of bringing the culture, bringing the talent, bringing the skills within the country and cultivating it.
If I may, before I could answer your question, I think that Mr. Garani makes a very important point. And I think that both as a country and as a continent, one of the things that we could do to ensure global relevance is to build interdisciplinary research platforms that will bring like traditional knowledge holders, the scientists as well as innovators, but also of importance is to advocate for legal and ethical protection of indigenous knowledge so that people's traditions and customs are not unethically taken and they are not acknowledged for contributing towards research. I think also ensuring that there is legal frameworks that provides for communities or even knowledge sharers to either patent the innovations is very important. So to come to your question, that's a very important one. And a friend of mine and I were discussing this. She's American. We're discussing this last week when we talked about an example about a prominent African leader who used to previously be the head of this Africa CDC, who was doing tremendously well for that new entity and went on to be offered, I guess, a position that he couldn't resist because it appeared to have global prominence. He was celebrated globally as being the first African to be heading that entity, like PEPFAR. But in reality, I think that as Africans, one of the things that we need to be mindful of is talent drainage, because our best talent are most of the time poached to go work for global entities at a time that Africa needs them. And in some instances, which we cannot deny, that is also because you would find that globally they are offered much more in terms of their salaries. So we need to look at how do we create talent policies that not only grow talent, that not only grow our talent, but people are compensated in a fair and sustainable manner, because we cannot deny that people need to be paid decent salaries. And I think as African countries, we should not only focus on having HR policies or even like recruitment strategies that are stelling, but we need to be conscious that we also build cultures within organizations that grow our talent, that create workplaces that also allow for staff growth, and so that we can retain our talent, so that they don't feel like you need to be working in the US or in Europe to be relevant or to be able to support your family, basically.
It's very important that we realize who we are, but whatever we're doing in our country, again, it's about shaping the futures, shaping the perceptions, making sure that we empower our youth to be able to identify themselves as Africans, because I think that is the most problem that we are having in the country. People they've lost identity, or they don't understand what identity is all about. And if we don't rectify that now, we can come up with all the ideas, all the products, we can want to commercialize, we can want to monetize, but at the end of the day, who are the drivers? They are the people, and the people need to understand themselves, right? So my next question, again, is related to exactly what I've said. In all the innovations that we're coming up with, how do we make sure that we retain their proudly African essence? Any of the members can answer it. Mr. Kalan?
Thank you. I think as somebody who gets a chance to interact with innovators every day, I think I can attempt. It's very important that we maintain the designs and ways that are innovators, however, adapting them to the world. In most instances, well, the protection of IP, I think to a certain extent, as a department through our agency, the CIPC, it's taken care of. You know how expensive it is to protect IP. This is a university, I don't need to remind you. However, government has sort of closed the gap in a way such that if it's really that good, then it can be protected at no cost. We have pro bono options with the CIPC, etc. So it's important that we maintain the designs of the technology or innovation that we have developed in Africa as we take it to the world. It may need adaptation to suit certain conditions outside, and also important, one must be able to act locally while thinking globally. We encourage our inventors to not only think of their products selling in Johannesburg or in Cape Town, etc., but think about this in Asia, think about this in Europe and the Americas. And then as a department, again, once more, we have the necessary type of export trade training, such that they understand the importance of protecting, especially when you go to the East. We all know how, let me not use the word cheap, affordable labor has resulted in some of our most beautiful designs being copied and replicated elsewhere. And remember, when you patent something, if this dress has a button and then you don't put a button, boom, that protection is gone because it's no longer the same item because you've changed something on it. So it's very important that when we teach our inventors to take their knowledge or their invention out, we also train them on how to best protect it and not disclose too much, but this close just enough for them to be able to trade and attract markets. But we must maintain and retain our identity as Africans and our own ways of doing things. Surely Africans have been doing things for decades, for years, without, I think, some of this modern technology. The challenge here is, I think, marrying old ways of doing things with the changing technology and industrial practices. We have AI and all that. How do we then infuse it into our indigenous ways and technologies? And I think that perhaps is, in terms of research, an area where we should look into how do we merge what we have as our own and our own ways with new ways of doing things, such that our products can go beyond the continent into the world. Thanks.
Okay. Yes, Leah?
All right. Also, just to echo the sentiments of Ms. Takalane, just to say that the importance of collaboration between academia, industry, the entrepreneurs, the founders, and the investors. I definitely think that co-creation is that's the new way of doing things. Back in the days, it was possible to just do something on your own, but if we want to take this continent to the next level, to ensure that we attain that global relevance, it's going to be important for us to be able to do that together, being in a position to co-create products that are contextualized to our needs, and that at the same time we are also able to impact globally using them. And as I've mentioned earlier, it's quite important to make sure that whatever aspirations our leaders have for our continent, our people need to know them. And the reason why I'm saying that is, very often you will hear people say that, as an entrepreneur, just think about a real problem, think about a real solution that you can solve. And if you're not innately a business-minded person, how do you go about thinking of what problem you're going to solve? However, if you are able to go to, some framework that has already been established, like I said, the AU agenda, you are actually able to pick up on, some of the goals that are there. Already it's giving you a direction to say, this is what we are working towards. You are giving people a sense of purpose. You are giving people ideas. And already from there, they can formulate and they can work on something. So when you put together a business model, you already know the outcomes. So design thinking is what I'm talking about. And we're already talking about, embedding entrepreneurship and technology into the school curriculum, and certainly involving design thinking as part of the entrepreneurship. Because I really think that as Africans, we need to start becoming intentional and deliberate about the outcomes we seek to achieve in the things that we do, in the technology we develop, in the innovations that we create. So that is actually what will allow us to be proudly African, because we know who we are, we know where we are going, and we also become relevant to the rest of the world.
Thank you for that. Can we pass on the mic to Mr. Lee?
Thank you very much. Maybe to add on to Takalani and to Naledi is that we should not compete with the West as Africa. We should also not compete with the East. We have our unique capabilities, we have our unique climatic conditions, population, infrastructure, ports. We should be able to develop things for ourselves and amongst ourselves. We are an old trading nation, continent. We've been trading for many, many years. So when you look at how other parts of the continent are responding to different sectors of the economy, I think we should do a deep dive into East Africa and how Nairobi Nairobi has become a center of excellence for tech and digitization, as an example. Why would we want to do the same in a Cape Town or Johannesburg if they are focused on that component? If Lagos on the western side or Kinshasa is focused on mineral beneficiation or oil and gas, or whatever they're good at, why don't we look at what they are good at and what we can do as SADC to be good at, based on our natural resources, our climate, etc. But I think lastly, what I would want to share is that collaboration is big, partnership is big, but in business, business should look at how do you sell your product or service offering as a collective. How do you bring 5 companies together in the same value chain, the full value chain, and looking at that as a global market? But you also need to be direct and specific. You've got BRICS, you've got African Free Trade Agreement, you've got Southeast Asia, which is very similar to Africa in market, big population, needs are very similar to Africa. How do we see easy route to markets? But importantly is how do you bring a one-man business, as an example, in the tech space, I'm using tech as an example, and bring 4 or 5 other businesses and develop a product for a big global client. And that is where I think we are not finding the collaboration and the partnerships. Each one wants to do his or her own thing in business, approach the market, but whereas you could have gone in an alliance of different companies, particularly when you have to compete with various different companies from all over the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You are alluding to the power of collaboration, of which some, or in some spaces, there's no collaboration. But I think that would help, because when you look at innovations, some of the innovations might reach wider audiences if we collaborate more especially as African continent as such. I think we need to get into that mindset of reaching out, of making sure that we work together. As quickly as possible, I'm saying, let me feed forward you to 2030. Let me feed forward you to your thinking in 2030. What should we be talking about in 2030? Today we're talking about, globally relevant, being Africans, Africa that we want. In 2030, what would we be talking about? Ms. Takalani, let me start with you.
I think with the richness that is in Africa, we're also taking new industries. And I hope that in the next 10 years or so, we would have taken control of certain economic sectors whereby you know that this comes from this region in Africa specifically, and this is where our strength is, and everyone else can lean towards us. The modern African child, I think, is very aware of the strength of the West, etc. And I think they are striving. I'm a perpetual optimist. I think to a certain extent they are striving towards, oh, but I can do this. I can do this better. And I'm well equipped because I've been through this and I have access to this. So if anything, as decision makers, as researchers, as policy makers, we need to come up with ways to ensure that we can own a certain space, a certain area, and say, this is ours and it's only uniquely ours from Africa to the world.
Okay. Dr. Gallant?
Thank you so much. I think in about the next 5 years or so, we should be having conversations about already having changed and shifted the narrative, for the world to recognize Africa for what it has to offer. With digital transformation and how quickly things are moving, we should definitely make sure that we use everything that we have to make sure that we are able to leapfrog, leveraging on technology so that we are on the same playing level field with the rest of the world through technology. And like I said, by then, we should be in a position to be able to ensure that our narrative is, we own our own narrative. Thanks.
Yes, Matambi?
We should be talking about how proud we are, about how we have strengthened research to policy to practice pipeline. And we should be boldly be showcasing how we have elevated African narratives successfully, like speaking about our own success, telling our stories in a creative and robust way. And we should also be saying as Africans that we have been able to strategically position ourselves as leaders in innovation.
Mr. Leo?
Just to echo, I think I would like to say I love my Africa. We should start by loving ourselves, loving our fellow Africans, and respecting each other. Once we have that synergy of respecting the cultures of and the knowledge, indigenous knowledge systems of each other, and learning more about each other, I think we'll be able to understand how to do business amongst each other as Africans first.
Yes, the business principles, they apply, but we need to understand them. The Africa that we want is the Africa that will showcase our own uniqueness and our own collaborations, and us having to embrace the shifts that are happening, because we tend to be resilient regarding the shifts, but it's about embracing those shifts so that we can move forward. Mr. Chair, if you can allow me, if I can take 2 or 3 questions from the floor. Is it fine with you? Right. Allow me to open questions to the floor. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have questions, please, I'm going to start with 3 questions first. And please, if you can mention who you want to answer the question. There's the first one, the second person. Do we have, there's the second hand, the third one at the back. Let's start with the first person.
Kenna Kaugelo Boya from the Department of Business Management. Yes, my question is directed to what Meta Kalani Ramutuga from the Department of Trade and Industry. In light of what happened, some called it a circus, in light of what happened yesterday in America, if somebody was to ask you, do we still feel that we are a sovereign state? Secondly, what are the implications in terms of the AGOA trade and other business initiatives between South Africa and the US moving forward? Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Boya. Second question from there. Okay.
My question is quite different, and it's probably not going to be a popular question. In light of the fact that we essentially have a functionally illiterate population, given the results of the Pearls report that indicates that 84% of students in South Africa, school children, are unable to read for meaning even in their own language. How can we foresee a future where we embrace and drive technological advancement in South Africa? Any of the panelists can answer this question for me. Thank you.
Thank you. The third question from the side.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mapala and the panelists. I am Professor Chirizi Nanjarara, the Director of the School of Public and Operations Management in the College of Economic and Management Sciences. The panelists have spoken about the uniqueness that we need to draw as Africans, and that we should then sell to the world. I want to pose the question to the panelists: what are some of the unique aspects about Africa that we should draw and perhaps convert that into products and services that will be unique and be able to sell us as Africans to the world. Thank you.
Prof. Njelela, is there anyone who you'd like to respond to the question? Okay, thank you. From all of the four, thank you. Right, Mr. Kalane, let me start with you. The first question. Yes, it might not be within your ambit of your profession.
Thank you. I think I'm going to attempt to address that which I can as a public administrator and leave certain positions to our leaders as they return. We saw them on TV last night. I haven't had a chance to see Minister Tau. I'm waiting for him to come home so that we can have a discussion with him and he can give us the marching orders and the good public servants that we are, we will. But in my personal view, I think our sovereignty as a country is intact. Diplomacy is a very sophisticated matter, and issues of trade, it's very important that we build good relations so that these African products can go into international markets. The country we're engaging with last night is a very strong economy, and it's very important that we build good relations. On the AGOA matter, like I said, I can always give you feedback. I shall wait the marching orders from the political principals. I will not make limiting
statements. Oh, yes, and then the second question about the literacy levels. Anyone can answer that? The second question.
I can take a stab at it. I'm not quite on the academic side, but as I had mentioned earlier, design thinking is quite a big thing nowadays. Look, I really do think that being intentional about the outcomes that we want to achieve, we need to really just make sure that it permeates all the way, starting from nursery school and primary school. And as I've mentioned earlier about everybody being part of this journey, understanding what it is that we are trying to achieve and, carving ways that will ensure that just carving ways that will ensure that everybody knows where we are going, how we're going to go about it, and really just making sure that we are able to achieve what we need to do as African people. But it's a bit of a challenging one because those are the statistics that the literacy level is low. But I'm hoping that technology can also play a role in helping us bridge that gap, because previously, as you knew, formal qualifications like having a degree used to be mandatory, but now we can see that with digital transformation, we are now leaning towards shorter courses. Things are changing rapidly. You don't need to go all the way and do a PhD, for instance, to learn how to code. So those are just some of the basic tools and techniques that we can actually start teaching some of our kids that may not necessarily have access to good or quality education. And I think maybe that's kind of like the best way that I can respond to your question. It may not be as comprehensive, but I definitely think that dynamics have shifted. The ways in which we do things are shifting, and we can use technology to try and bridge that gap somehow.
Okay.
Thanks.
The third question was from Prof. Njelele about Africa being unique, right?
Can I go ahead?
Yes.
Okay. I'm of the view that being deliberate and more intentional in investing more into traditional healers and including herbalists, like using plant-based treatments, for an example, or even African rituals to treat diseases. That's one area that more can be invested on across Africa, because they definitely, whether it be traditional healers or even herbalists, they have for centuries been in the forefront of providing primary health care to communities, and people have lived through the medicines or even rituals that were being provided.
Okay. Leo, do you want to say something?
Yes.
Thank you.
Maybe just quickly to the professor, I think my knowledge and experience says that there's unique opportunities for Africa. It's a big, vast continent with vast land. We can supply food to many parts of the world, both from land and from the ocean. And we are close to Europe and North Africa. We are on this side in the southern part. We've got South America. We've got Asia. We've got India on this side. So we've got big potential. We've got 1,700 ships passing on the Cape trade route due to the Suez Canal being blocked for ships to move trade around. So there's big opportunities for South African companies to get involved in trade, moving goods, but also supplying goods for those vessels. We as a country do not own any vessels. Nobody owns a vessel in this country. So we are not trading. We don't own the full value chain of taking our goods out of the country. So there's opportunities in ship building, ship repairs, fueling those ships, looking at new technologies to fuel those ships. So I don't think we're short of opportunities in Africa. Our geographic location makes it easier to move to anywhere in the world. So I hope I answered you, Prof.
Thank you. I think we're not short of opportunity, yes, but it's about how we utilize and how we execute some of the opportunities that actually exist out there. I think I can see that the chair is coming to the front, meaning that I am out of my time boundary, but I think my time, my time has expired. But let me take this opportunity to thank you, the audience, and thanks for your questions. Let me thank the panelists in assisting us to define and interpret what proudly South African, proudly African is, and also what globally relevant is at the same time. But again, let me thank my institution, my UNISA, because that's where my bread is buttered, for its own efforts, I think, in actually amplifying a positive and transformative image of Africa, because I know that our VC is doing a lot on that front. So let us be appreciative and grateful for that. To my panel, thank you for the insightful conversation, actionable strategies, and for your existence here, because you took time to be here with us to engage with UNISA delegates and other dignitaries. So on that note, I thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mapala, and the panelists for sharing some insights on various topics that you covered. Colleagues, we've got two more points on our agenda that we have to deal with. At this point, I think we're going to deal with what I consider to be a central aspect in the coordination of our M&D activities in the college. I'll give an example of why I say it's central. Most of us, when we get into our cars, you just start your car and you just hope that everything goes well. All you know is that it must start and then you must just drive. But some of the smallest things, if they go wrong in a vehicle, you may not be able to move. So I'm going to call now Dr. Erize van Wyk, who's going to now tell us about positioning CAMS as a center of excellence. But when you get some time, Erize, at some point, this is Dr. Erize van Wyk. You know, I was thinking to myself, the Afrikaans language, and I thought Van means surname. Does it not mean surname?
Yes.
Van means surname. So it's Rize surname Veek. So we have a lot of fans. Antwerpen, Skalkwyk, Jaarsveld. I couldn't tell. Oh, does it mean I belong to? Oh, okay. But we'll deal with that. Prof. Muraka has a language day thing happening soon. We'll deal with what's that fun about. No? Okay. All right, thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Van Wyk.
Okay, good morning colleagues and honorable guests. My name is Iriza van Wyk and it is a privilege to speak to you today about a topic that lies at the heart of our academic and social mission, positioning the College of Economic and Management Sciences as a center of excellence and innovation, with a particular focus on our master's and doctoral students. Let me begin by affirming that the foundation that anchors our identity. We are proudly African, globally relevant. This vision challenges us to deliver research that is not only intellectually rigorous, but also deeply connected to the lived realities of our continent. It asks us to contribute meaningfully to the global scholarly community while remaining rooted in African context, values, and priorities. In this session, I'm going to just explain what it is, what excellence innovation is in MND studies, and I'm also going to explain how our research aligns with our research priorities as well as global priorities. So, what does excellence mean in the postgraduate space? At SEMS, we believe that excellence in M&D studies can be defined by 5 pillars. Firstly, research output with real-world relevance. Our students are tackling important topics of our time, such as green supply chain management, sustainable tourism, sustainable finance, women in leadership and management, digital transformation across fields, entrepreneurship, and public sector innovation, informing policy and practice. Then ethical research methodology that is sound and original work. Excellence requires rigor. We uphold high standards for ethical research, promote innovation and robust methodology, and encourage original thinking. Then robust supervision systems. A strong postgraduate journey is built on the scaffolding of effective supervision. At SEMS, we are intentional about building supervisory capacity through our workshops and co-supervision approaches and using reflective, reciprocal models of guidance. Then scholarly contribution to local and global discourse. Colleagues, guests, our scholars are adding African voices to global debates. They are citing from and speaking to African scholarship while engaging deeply with international literature. And then a transformative student experience. Excellence is not just about outputs. It's about nurturing a research identity, supporting our students through structured research development opportunities, mentoring, and peer engagement. Alongside excellence, we embrace innovation, not just as a buzzword, but as a necessity in a rapidly academic and global landscape. Innovation in our context means three things. rethinking supervision. We are continuously refining our supervision, including co-supervision across disciplines and departments, using digital tools to support project tracking and supervision experiences. This is, for example, through our MND dashboard. These approaches expand capacity while deepening the student and supervision experience. Then embracing new methodologies, whether it is simulation modeling for public health, combining neuroscience with organizational psychology, AI-assisted data coding, or participatory action research, our MND students are pushing methodological boundaries to solve complex, context-specific problems. And then maintaining and refining our digital research ecosystem. At SEMS, we are leveraging digital platforms to facilitate access to resources, online ethical applications, having virtual proposal defenses as well as now the PhD defense, and online training and workshops. This is part of a larger institutional move towards digitalization and knowledge democratization. Now at SEMS, we put forth every year research focus areas where we invite students to do research in particular areas. And our research is strategically aligned with UNISA's catalytic niche areas, ensuring that our work is both impactful and strategically positioned. Some examples of our research focus areas put out in 2025 includes a focus on renewable energy, for example. We've got a number of research focus areas that is aligned with the fourth industrial revolution and digitalization. We have, for example, digital marketing and technology, smart technology, artificial intelligence, robotics, and algorithms, or strata, in the context of the fourth industrial revolution. We also have focus areas that are specifically focused on women. So we've got the gender and tourism specifically focusing on women. And we also have a research focus area, women in management and leadership in the private and public sector. And then we also have two research focus areas that is aligned with student support and co-curricular activities, which is ODEL in higher education and then also public administration education. However, colleagues and guests, it is not just the research focus areas that are important. It is also important to understand the context in which these studies may take place within the research focus area. If one were to look at these contexts as well as the research interest that is displayed in the research focus areas, one will see that studies are done in coastal communities, in aviation, in the health sector. If you look at transport, economics, and tourism management, we will see that research is applied to various modes and forms of transport, which can be freight, air, land, and sea. And then if we look at the decision sciences, there's a research focus area that promotes using simulation modeling to address public health questions. While the CNA enhances academics' experiences as engaged scholars who care to address the need of our society, they are also aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals, a framework to address the most pressing global issues. In essence, our SEMS research focus areas in alignment to the catalytic niche areas are not just abstract priorities, and our commitment to excellence and innovation is not happening in a vacuum. Our research priorities are embedded in the work of our MND students, and we are developing MND students at a time of global instability. Students who are conducting applied interdisciplinary research, contributing meaningfully to the global scholarly community while remaining rooted in African contexts. In conclusion, to further strengthen our position in SEMS as a center of excellence and innovation means continuing to invest in supervision development, expanding access to research support infrastructure, prioritizing transformational and interdisciplinary research, and most importantly, listening to and empowering the student's voice. Colleagues, let us remain committed to nurturing scholars who are not only academically capable, but socially conscious and future focused. Thank you.
Thank you, Hoor. Colleagues, thank you. Thank you, Dr. van Wyk. Short and sweet. We are now at the end of our session. I'd like to please just ask Professor Moraka to please come this side to give us a vote of thanks. And at some point, I believe you'll be asking the Dean to join you. Okay, colleagues, Professor Moraka.
Thank you, colleagues. It's still the morning. Good morning. I hope you are all well. Mine is to do the most gratifying task I've ever done this week. And thank you, Dr. Mako, for the invitation. It would be remiss for me to exclude the fact that Amakosi ajabulile. Re happy, colleagues. Thank you so much. Colleagues, in the wake of geopolitical contestations, the global sustainability challenges, and what we saw in particular last night in the US, calls really for what the aim of this gathering hopes to achieve. That we need Africa that works, we need Africa that is united, we need Africa that is strategic, we need Africa that is especially innovative, Africa that is integrated to play in the global macroeconomic climate. It is urgent, it is necessary, because it is transformative, it is impactful. So we hope that the feast of engagement we benefited from today has sparked a new challenge in us to how are we contributing to proudly African, globally relevant. I want to thank the program director, Mr. Baloyi, for efficiently running our program. Being mindful of time, we are the College of Economic and Management Science. Business, we mean business. We are all about money. And therefore, time is money, and we thank you for respecting that. Dr. Mas Chaba, our executive dean, thank you so much. He said that Africa is appropriately positioned to solve its challenges. You're quite spot on. And you reminded us of the important work that we do in the college of embracing indigenous knowledge systems, ensuring that the knowledge that we generate is disseminated through books, through research. We can do more. Thank you, Dr. Mako, for your opening move on how we can reshape African knowledge and embrace the diversity of perspectives. And that's in essence what South Africa is. It is unfortunate that the US has got a different view, but as diverse as we are stronger together. We have been through so much as a country. We have demonstrated that we are resilient. And therefore, we thank you, Dr. Mako, for reminding us that the diversity of perspectives actually assist us in having a globally relevant African product. Dr. Chabungu, thank you for cementing the agency of infusing catalytic niche areas in camps. You've led us to believe that millions of people are affected by marine environment. And there are national, continental, and international contestations, interests to participate and take advantage of our global marine economy. We thank you for that. Mr. Quintin Zunga in absentia on bridging heritage and innovation, the global healthcare revolution. At least we also had a billionaire in the room. But he said something very important, that heritage can be capitalized, treated with rigorous and scientific backing, and therefore our research is definitely relevant. Thank you, Ms. Bongi Wenzeku, who has really invited us to partner, to invest, to collaborate in our initiatives, and we hope that colleagues will reach out. There were pledges for funding Dr. Chapungu. Let's take advantage of that. Lastly, we thank all our panelists, Mr. Leo Crisp, Ms. Tendani Mutambi, Dr. Naledi Gallant, Mr. Galani Ramutaha, as well as Dr. Mapala, for really facilitating that intellectual feast that we benefited from. We really appreciate that. Was well done. Dr. Van Wyk, for rounding up this session on how we can position SEMS as a center of excellence and innovation, and the time is now. She reflected, amongst others, innovative supervision, how we engage with our postgraduate students. Do we set them up for success? Do we introduce them actually to the catalytic niche areas? Because that's where the future is. And we appreciate the VC for institutionalizing these catalytic niche areas, because in essence, she was ahead of her time. Catalytic niche areas are actually aligned with the NDP 2030. They are aligned with the African Union Agenda 2063. They are aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals. And therefore, if UNISA gets this right, we'll be ahead of all these universities in the country. And we appreciate that leadership. The organizers, the support staff, and all of you colleagues who please give yourselves a round of applause. You've been a very good audience. We started being full like this, we end up the same way. But that means that together we can achieve more, and we appreciate that. I will request all the panelists, as well as you, Dr. Chapungu, Dr. Mapala, to come in front, whilst the Executive Dean, the head of OGSR, the head of Quality Assurance, Professor Nkwana. Here. Oh, okay. The school directors, please come and let's appreciate the colleagues. Professor Ninjelelo, you are here. And the school director representing SEFs, please come join. Let's have a nice picture and thank all the participants, please.
Colleagues, thank you very much. That vote of thanks actually also meant that we are done. There will be, you saw they called management. So those of us who are not, let's go. And there are refreshments at exam hall 1, just downstairs. I think it's a floor down. There are refreshments there. We can go there. Just take your belongings, colleagues, because the next college is coming to have their event here. Thank you, colleagues.